Hello, friends. If this joke tickled your funny bone, don't forget to hit subscribe. It's an easy way to keep the humor flowing into your feed. Don't miss the last one. That is special joke for you.
"How are you, darling?" It said, "What kind of a day are you having?" "Oh, Mother," said the housewife, breaking into bitter tears. "I've had such a bad day. The baby won't eat, and the washing machine broke down. I haven't had a chance to go shopping, and besides, I've just sprained my ankle, and I have to hobble around. On top of that, the house is a mess, and I'm supposed to have 2 couples over for dinner tonight." The mother was shocked, and was at once all sympathy. "Oh, darling," she said, "sit down, relax, and close your eyes. I'll be over in half an hour. I'll do your shopping, clean up the house, and cook your dinner for you. I'll feed the baby, and I'll call a repairman I know who'll be at your house to fix the washing machine promptly. Now stop crying. I'll do everything. In fact, I'll even call George at the office and tell him he ought to come home and help out for once." "George?" said the housewife. "Who's George?" "Why, George, your husband. Isn't this 2231374? No, this is 2321374. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I have the wrong number." There was a short pause, and the housewife said, "Does this mean you're not coming over?" A young man hired by a supermarket reported for his first day of work. The manager greeted him with a warm handshake and smile, gave him a broom, and said, "Your first job will be to sweep out the store." "But I'm a college graduate," the young man replied indignantly. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that," said the manager. "Here, give me the broom. I'll show you how." A woman is having an affair during the day while her husband is at work. Her 9-year-old son comes home unexpectedly, sees them, and hides in the bedroom closet to watch. The woman's husband also comes home. She puts her lover in the closet, not realizing that the little boy is in there already. The little boy says, "Dark in here." The man says, "Yes, it is." Boy, "I have a baseball." Man, "That's nice." Boy, "Want to buy it?" Man, "No, thanks." Boy, "My dad's outside." Man, "Okay, how much?" Boy, $250. In the next few weeks, it happens again that the boy and the lover are in the closet together. Boy, "Dark in here." Man, "Yes, it is." Boy, "I have a baseball glove." The lover, remembering the last time, asks the boy, "How much?" Boy, $750. Man, "Fine." A few days later, the father says to the boy, "Grab your glove. Let's go outside and have a game of catch." The boy says, "I can't. I sold my baseball and my glove." The father asks, "How much did you sell them for?" Boy, $1,000. The father says, "That's terrible to overcharge your friends like that. That is way more than those 2 things cost. I'm going to take you to church and make you confess." They go to the church, and the father makes the little boy sit in the confession booth, and he closes the door. The boy says, "Dark in here." The priest says, "Don't start that sheshat again." Since he was an Indian chief in a modern society, he had never been taught the old secrets, and when he looked at the sky, he couldn't tell what the weather was going to be. Nevertheless, to be on the safe side, he replied to his tribe that the winter was indeed going to be cold, and that the members of the village should collect wood to be prepared. But also being a practical leader, after several days he got an idea. He went to the phone booth, called the National Weather Service, and asked, "Is the coming winter going to be cold?" "It looks like this winter is going to be quite cold indeed," the meteorologist at the Weather Service responded. So the chief went back to his people and told them to collect even more wood in order to be prepared. A week later, he called the National Weather Service again. "Is it going to be a very cold winter?" "Yes," the man at the National Weather Service again replied. "It's definitely going to be a very cold winter." The chief again went back to his people and ordered them to collect every scrap of wood they could find. 2 weeks later, he called the National Weather Service again. "Are you absolutely sure that the winter is going to be very cold?" "Absolutely," the man replied. It's going to be one of the coldest winters ever." "How can you be so sure?" the chief asked. The weatherman replied, "The Indians are collecting wood like crazy." A traveler was walking along the side of the road, hitchhiking on a dark night in the middle of a thunderstorm. Time passed slowly, and no cars went by. It was raining so hard he could barely see his hand in front of his face. Suddenly, he saw a car approaching, moving slowly and appearing ghost-like in the rain. It slowly and silently crept toward him and stopped. Wanting a ride very badly, the guy jumped into the car and closed the door. Only then did he realize that there was nobody behind the wheel and no sound of the engine to be heard over the rain. Again, the car crept slowly forward, and the guy was terrified, too scared to think of jumping out and running. The guy saw that the car was approaching a sharp curve, and still too scared to jump out, he started to pray and beg for his life. He was certain the ghost car would go off the road and into the river, and he would surely drown. But just before the curve, a shadowy figure appeared at the driver's window, and a hand reached in and turned the steering wheel, guiding the car safely around the bend. Then, just as silently, the hand disappeared through the window, and the hitchhiker was alone again. Paralyzed with fear, the guy watched the hand reappear every time they reached a curve. Finally, the guy, frightened nearly to death, had all he could take and jumped out of the car and ran through the storm to the nearby town. Wet and in shock, he went into a lighted tavern and, with voice quavering, ordered a drink, and then, shaken, he told everybody about his supernatural experience. A silence came over those listening, and everybody got goosebumps. They realized the guy was sober and was telling the truth, and the sounds of the storm continued outside. About a half hour later, two guys walked into the bar, and one said to the other, "Look, Billy Bob, there's that idiot that rode in our car while we were pushing it in the rain. Two men were marooned on an island. One man peered back and forth, worried and scared, while the other man sat back and was sunning himself. The first man said to the second man, 'Aren't you afraid we are about to die?' 'No,' said the second man, 'for you see I make $100,000 per week, and I tithe faithfully to my church every week. My pastor will find me.'" By the time the soldier pulled into the little town, every hotel room was taken. Taken. "You've got to have a room somewhere," he pleaded with a proprietor. "Well, I do have a double room with one occupant, but he is an Air Force guy," admitted the manager, "and he might be glad to split the cost. But to tell you the truth, he snores so loudly that people in adjoining rooms have complained in the past. I'm not sure it'd be worth it to you." "No problem," the tired army guy assured him. "I'll take it." The next morning, the soldier came down to breakfast, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. "How do you sleep?" asked the manager. "Never better," said the soldier. The manager was impressed. "No problem with the other guy snoring all night long?" "No, I shut him up in no time," explained the soldier. "How'd you manage that?" asked the proprietor. "Well, he was already in bed, snoring away when I walked into the room, so I gave him a kiss on the cheek," explained the soldier. Then I whispered in his ear, "Good night, beautiful," and he sat up all night watching me. A man was telling his co-worker one day that the company was transferring him to Chicago. He explained that he was going to quit before he had to move there. When asked why, he replied that he was just too afraid of all the crime, even though he would be passing up a big salary increase and greater benefits. His co-worker said he should reconsider. Chicago was a magnificent city with world-class museums, loaded with a great history, sights, good public transportation, etc. Then he said, "I myself worked in Chicago for almost 10 years, and in all that time I never ever had a problem with crime while I was working." The first asked, "What did you do there?" To which the other replied, "I was a tail gunner on a bread truck." A soldier ran up to a nun. Out of breath, he asked, "Please, may I hide under your skirt? I'll explain later." The nun agreed. A moment later, two military policemen ran up and asked, "Sister, have you seen a soldier?" The nun replied, "He went that way." After the MPs ran off, the soldier crawled out from under her skirt and said, "I can't thank you enough, sister. You see, I don't want to go to Iraq." The nun said, "I understand completely." The soldier added, "I hope I'm not rude, but you have a great pair of legs." The nun replied, "If you had looked a little higher, you would have seen a great pair of balls." I don't want to go to Iraq either. On his way to the protest site, he sees one guy dressed from head to toe in red standing on the side of the highway, gesturing him to stop. Our guy rolls down the window and asks, "How can I help you?" "I am the Red Bast. Of the Asphalt, you got something to eat?" With a smile on his face, he hands one of his sandwiches to the red-dressed guy and drives away. Not even 5 minutes later, he comes across another guy. This time, the guy is dressed fully in yellow, standing on the side and waving him to stop. A bit irritated, our guy stops, cranks down the window, and asks, "What can I do for you?" "I am the Yellow Bast. Of the Asphalt, you got something to drink?" Hardly managing to smile this time, he hands the guy a can of soda and then stomps on the pedal and takes off again. In order to make it to the protest site before sunset, he decides to go faster and not to stop no matter what. To his frustration, he sees another guy on the side of the road, dressed all in blue, making a hand signal to stop him. Not quite willing, our guy decides to stop one last time. He rolls his window down and yells to the guy, "I know you're the Blue Bast of the Asphalt, but just what the heck do you want?" "Driver's license and registration, please." Once there was a complaint at King Akbar's court. There were 2 neighbors who shared their garden. In that garden, there was a well that was possessed by Iqbal Khan. His neighbor, who was a farmer, wanted to buy the well for irrigation purposes. Therefore, they signed an agreement between them, after which the farmer owned the well. Even after selling the well to the farmer, Iqbal continued to fetch water from the well. Angered by this, the farmer had come to get justice from King Akbar. King Akbar asked Iqbal the reason for fetching water from the well even after selling it to the farmer. Iqbal replied that he had sold only the well to the farmer, but not the water inside it. King Akbar wanted Raja Birbal, who was present in the court listening to the problem, to solve the dispute. Birbal came forward and gave a solution. He said, "Iqbal, you say that you have sold only the well to the farmer, and you claim that the water is yours. Then how come you can keep your water inside another person's well without paying rent?" Iqbal's trickery was countered, thus in a tricky way. The farmer got justice, and Birbal was fairly rewarded. A stockbroker was cold calling about a penny stock and found a taker. "I think this one will really move," said the broker. "It's only $1 a share." "Buy me 1,000 shares," said the client. The next day, the stock was at $2. The client called the broker and said, "You were right. Give me 5,000 more shares." The next day, the client looked in the paper, and the stock was at $4. The client ran to the phone and called the broker. "Get me 10,000 more shares," said the client. "Great," said the broker. The next day, the client looked in the paper, and the stock was at $9. Seeing what a great profit he had in just a few days, the client ran to the phone and told the broker, "Sell all my shares." The broker said, "To whom?" "You were the only one buying that stock." A samurai, who was known for his nobility and honesty, went to visit a Zen monk to ask him for his advice. When the monk had finished his prayers, the samurai asked, "Why do I feel so inferior? I have faced death many times and have defended those who are weak. Nevertheless, upon seeing you meditating, I felt that my life had absolutely no importance whatsoever." "Wait. Once I have attended to all those who come to see me today, I shall answer you." The samurai spent the whole day sitting in the temple gardens, watching the people go in and out in search of advice. He saw how the monk received them all with the same patience and the same illuminated smile on his face. At nightfall, when everyone had gone, he demanded, "Now can you teach me?" The master invited him in and led him to his room. The full moon shone in the sky, and the atmosphere was one of profound tranquility. "Do you see the moon? How beautiful it is! It will cross the entire firmament, and tomorrow the sun will shine once again. But sunlight is much brighter and can show the details of the landscape around us, trees, mountains, and clouds. I have contemplated the two for years and have never heard the moon say, 'Why do I not shine like the sun? Is it because I am inferior?' Of course not," answered the samurai. "The moon and the sun are different things. Each has its own beauty. You cannot compare the two, so you know the answer. We are two different people, each fighting in his own way for that which he believes and making it possible to make the world a better place. The rest are mere appearances." One day a horse trader, a foreigner, came to the court of Krishnadeva Raya and told him he had some fine horses for sale. The emperor offered to buy them. The man took an advance of 5,000 gold coins and, promising to return with the horses in 2 days, went away. That evening, Krishnadeva Raya saw Raman writing on a sheet of paper. "What are you writing?" he asked. "I'm making a list of the greatest fools in the empire," said Raman. The emperor was astonished to see his own name on the top of the list. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "You think I am a fool? Any man who would give 5,000 gold coins to a stranger and expect him to return is a fool," replied Raman. "Oh, so that's what is troubling you," said the emperor. "You think the man won't return? What if he does?" "In that case," said Raman with a twinkle in his eye, "I'll scratch out your name and put his there." An old man gets on a crowded bus and no one gives him a seat. As the bus shakes and rattles, the old man's cane slips on the floor and he falls down. As he gets up, a 7-year-old kid sitting nearby turns to him and says, "If you put a little rubber thingy on the end of your stick, it wouldn't slip." The old man snaps back, "Well, if your daddy did the same thing 7 years ago, I would have a seat today." "My life is a mess," he says. "My owner is mean. My girlfriend ran away with a schnauzer, and I'm as jittery as a cat. Just the other day, the postman almost ran me over. I was chased by the neighbor's cat, and then the paper boy managed to hit me with his paper tawse. I think I have fleas, or at least I'm allergic to the new bird my owner got. All in all, I'm a total mess and don't know what to do." "Why don't you go see a psychiatrist?" suggests the collie. "I can't," says the poodle. "I'm not allowed on the couch." A farmer is sitting in the neighborhood bar getting soused. A man comes in and asks the farmer, "Hey, why are you sitting here on this beautiful day getting drunk?" Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So what happened? That is so horrible." Farmer, "Well, if you must know, today I was sitting by my cow milking her. Just as I go the bucket about full, she takes her left leg and kicks it over." Man, "That's not so bad. What's the big deal?" Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So then what happened?" Farmer, "I took her left leg and tied it to the post on the left with some rope. Then I sat down and continued to milk her. Just as I got the bucket about full, she took her right leg and kicked it over." Man, again. Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So what did you do then?" Farmer, "I took her right leg and tied it to the post on the right." Man, "So then what did you do?" Farmer, "I sat back down and continued to milk her, and just as I got the bucket just about full, the stupid cow knocked over the bucket with her tail." Man, "Wow, you must have been pretty upset." Farmer, "Some things you just can't explain." Man, "So then what did you do?" Farmer, "Well, I didn't have any more rope, so I took off my belt and tied her tail to the rope. At that moment, my pants fell down, and my wife walked in. Moish the carpenter, returning home with his week's wages, was accosted by an armed robber on a deserted street. "Take my money," said Moish, "but do me a favor. Shoot a bullet through my hat. Otherwise, My wife won't believe I was robbed." The robber obliged. He threw Moish's hat into the air and put a bullet through it. "Let's make it look as if I ran into a gang of robbers," said Moish. "Otherwise, my wife will call me a coward. Please shoot a number of holes through my coat." So the robber shot a number of holes through the carpenter's coat. "And now?" "Sorry," interrupted the robber. "No more holes. I'm out of bullets." "That's all I wanted to know," said Moish. "Now hand me back my money and some more for the hat and coat that you've ruined, or I'll beat you black and blue." The robber threw down the money and ran. The wife suddenly noticed that her husband was missing, and as they had a lot to do, she called him on the mobile. The wife said, Where are you? You know we have lots to do." He said, "You remember the jewelers we went into about 10 years ago, and you fell in love with that diamond necklace? I could not afford it at the time, and I said that one day I would get it for you." Little tears started to flow down her cheek, and she got all choked up. "Yes, I do remember that shop," she replied. "Well, I am in the bar next to that." A dog ran into a butcher shop and grabbed a roast off the counter. Fortunately, the butcher recognized the dog as belonging to a neighbor of his. The neighbor happened to be a lawyer. Incensed at the theft, the butcher called up his neighbor and said, "Hey, if your dog stole a roast from my butcher shop, would you be liable for the cost of the meat?" The lawyer replied, "Of course. How much was the roast?" $7.98. A few days later, the butcher received a check in the mail for $7.98. Attached to it was an invoice that read, "Legal Consultation Service, $150. Once upon a time, an old man and a young man were living nearby. The old man spread rumors that his young neighbor was a thief. As a result, the young man was arrested by the police and brought to the magistrate. Days later, the young man was proven innocent. After being released, he sued the old man for wrongly accusing him. In court, the old man told the judge he just made comments and didn't harm anyone. The judge, before passing sentence on the case, told the old man, "Write all the things you said about him on a piece of paper, cut them up, and on the way home throw the pieces of paper out. Tomorrow, come back to hear the sentence." The next day, the judge told the old man, "Before receiving the sentence, you will have to go out and gather all the pieces of paper that you threw out yesterday." The old man said, "I can't do that. The wind spread them, and I won't know where to find them." The judge then replied, "The same way, simple comments may destroy the honor of a man to such an extent that one is not able to fix it. If you can't speak well of someone, rather don't say anything. Let's all be masters of our mouth so that we won't be slaves to our words." The pencil maker took the pencil aside just before putting him into the box. "There are 5 things you need to know," he told the pencil, "before I send you out into the world. Always remember them and never forget, and you will become the best pencil you can be. 1. You will be able to do many great things, but only if you allow yourself to be held in someone's hand. 2. You will experience a painful sharpening from time to time, but you'll need it to become a better pencil. 3. You will be able to correct any mistakes you might make. 4. The most important part of you will always be what's inside. And 5. On every surface you are used on, you must leave your mark. No matter what the condition, you must continue to write." The pencil understood and promised to remember, and went into the box with purpose in its heart. Now replace the place of the pencil with you. Always remember them, and never forget, and you will become the best person you can be. 1. You will be able to do many great things, but only if you allow yourself to be held in God's hand, and allow other human beings to access you for the many gifts you possess. 2. You will experience a painful sharpening from time to time, by going through various problems in life, but you'll need it to become a stronger person. 3. You will be able to correct any mistakes you might make. 4. The most important part of you will always be what's on the inside. And 5. On every surface you walk through, you must leave your mark. No matter what the situation, you must continue to do your duties. Allow this parable on the pencil to encourage you to know that you are a special person, and only you can fulfill the purpose to which you were born to accomplish. Never allow yourself to get discouraged and think that your life is insignificant and you cannot make a change. The little boy had been looking out of a WestJet Airlines plane window on a flight from Toronto to Calgary when he turned to his mother and asked, "If big dogs have baby dogs and big cats have baby cats, why don't big planes have baby planes?" The mother couldn't think of an answer. She told her son to ask the flight attendant. The boy went down the aisle and asked the flight attendant, "If big dogs have baby dogs and big cats have baby cats, why don't big planes have baby planes?" The busy flight attendant smiled and asked the boy, "Did your mother tell you to ask me that?" The boy replied, "Yes, she did." "Well," said the flight attendant, "you tell your mother that there are no baby planes because WestJet always pulls out on time. Have your mother explain that to you." One dark night, 2 men are walking home after a party and decide to take a shortcut through the cemetery. Right in the middle of the cemetery, they are startled by a tap, tap, tapping noise coming from the misty shadows. Trembling with fear, they find an old man with a hammer and chisel chipping away at one of the headstones. "Holy cow, dude," one says after catching his breath. "You scared us half to death. We thought you were a ghost. What are you doing working here so late at night?" "Those fools," the old man grumbles, "they misspelled my name." Larry, a local football star, is jogging down the street when he sees a building on fire. A lady is standing on a 3rd-story ledge holding her pet cat in her arms. Ledge. "Hey, lady," yells Larry, "well, throw me the cat." "No," she cries, "it's too far. I play football. I can catch him." The smoke is pouring from the windows. Finally, the woman waves to Larry, kisses her cat goodbye, and tosses it down to the street. Larry keeps his eye on the cat as it comes hurtling down toward him. Catch. The feline bounces off an awning, and Larry runs into the street to catch it. He jumps 6 feet into the air and makes a spectacular one-handed catch. The crowd that has gathered to watch the fire breaks into cheers. Larry does a little dance, lifts the cat above his head, wiggles his knees back and forth, then spikes the cat into the pavement. A man who had just undergone a very complicated operation kept complaining about a bump on his head and a terrible headache. Since his operation had been an intestinal one, there was no earthly reason why he should be complaining of a headache. Finally, his nurse, fearing that the man might be suffering from some post-operative shock, spoke to the doctor about it. The doctor assured the nurse, "Don't worry about a thing. He really does have a bump on his head. About halfway through the operation, we ran out of anesthetic." A man is getting into the shower just as his wife is finishing up her shower when the doorbell rings. The wife quickly wraps herself in a towel and runs downstairs. When she opens the door, there stands Bob, the next-door neighbor. Before she says a word, Bob says, "I'll give you $800 to drop that towel." After thinking for a moment, the woman drops her towel and stands naked in front of Bob. After a few seconds, Bob hands her $800 and leaves. The woman wraps herself back up in the towel and goes back upstairs. When she gets to the bathroom, her husband asks, "Who was that?" "It was Bob, the next-door neighbor," she replies. "Great," the husband says. "Did he say anything about the $800 he owes me?" Moral of the story: if you share critical information pertaining to credit and risk with your shareholders in time, you may be in a position to prevent avoidable exposure.
If you're still here, I'm thrilled you enjoyed the joke. Subscribing is a simple way to stay connected. Join our community and make me a happy friend.